All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Patriots Postgame Live. I am your host today, Anastasios Kilimos, aka the Greek Freak. I am filling in today for KJ, who is not able to host Patriots Postgame Live today. So I'll be filling in for this exciting recap of what I'm calling probably the worst loss of my lifetime as a New England Patriots fan. Obviously, if you're just coming out of watching that game, apologies to all Pats fans who had to witness that 47-17 thrashing at the hands of the Buffalo Bills. If you're wondering why I'm wearing sunglasses at 11:30 at night in my basement, I don't want to show the pain in my eyes because I'm going to be honest, this one hurt. This one hurt really bad. Like I said, I think this is truthfully the worst loss that I have experienced as a Patriots fan in my 23 years of living. It was pretty bad. Um, where to even begin? It really just seemed from early on this team just did not come in with the right mindset and the right energy. I mean, from the first drive of the game, Buffalo scored very, fairly easily. And from that point on, it just got worse and worse. I will say this right away, early on. I'm not putting a lot of this loss on Mac Jones. He was the thing coming into this game that I was the most worried about. I came in all week long. I kept thinking about Mac Jones. He's going to be the reason why this falls apart. He's going to be the reason why um, we simply could not get past Buffalo. And granted, he did have 2 interceptions. The first one, by the way, wasn't a bad throw. It was just a great play by Micah Hyde. But I thought it was a great performance by Mac Jones. Maybe not great, but you know what I mean. A solid performance considering the circumstances. Um, I thought he was actually one of the only Patriots players who came into this game with some energy, with some like oomph, like he wanted to be there, like he wanted to win the game. I felt like most of the team just came out flat. I feel like there's only a handful of guys who really showed up today and wanted to win this football game and get on to the next round. This team just came out flat, specifically the defense. Like I said, it was just a very uninspiring showing from the New England Patriots, and it's not what we've come to expect. That's not out of all the outcomes, out of all the scenarios. I just did not think that this would be the outcome. I really was not expecting this. Um, it was bad. It was a really bad loss, and I'm hurting a little bit from it. I'm not gonna lie. Um, I just like I said, I can't not believe like I'm still sitting here wondering like how could this have happened? Like out of all the results, out of all the possible outcomes. Now listen, I'm not saying I was guaranteeing a victory. I knew there was a very good chance we lost this game. New England over the last month was reeling. Things were really going downhill after the bye week. So I was nervous coming into the game, absolutely. But then to have this happen, I'm just shocked. Like I really don't know how you come out that flat. Like this is not a Belichickian team. Like that's the one thing about Belichick. That's the one thing about his teams over the years. They come out prepared when they, especially a playoff game. They're not going to lose like this. If they're going to lose, it's because they're playing a really good football team with a really great game plan that just came in and knew how to beat you. That's not what happened. I mean, it's partially what happened today, but I just think New England just came out flat. I mean, anything Buffalo did offensively, it worked. They had no problem with anything they were doing offensively, running the football, passing the football. Josh Allen went 21 for 25 passing. He had 4 incompletions the entire game, and those incompletions weren't really caused by the defense. Those were just drops by his own players or balls that maybe weren't the best. Like he had one low ball to Gabriel Davis. I think it was a Davis or McKenzie early in the game that was a drop. Those were his incompletions. New England's defense put no pressure on Josh Allen all game long. He was free to do whatever he wanted, throw the football, run the football, whatever he wanted to do, he had full reign to do it. And that's just embarrassing. This defense was for a hot minute the best defense in the NFL during that 7-game winning streak. And for this to be the final game of their year, this is the end result for this defense. It's embarrassing. It's the best word I can say to describe this game. It was absolutely embarrassing. The offense played well. Well enough. I mean, Mac Jones wasn't bad. He really wasn't that bad. That first drive, I actually got very excited early on in the game. That first drive, some of those throws that he was making, it was something we hadn't seen from this offense much this year, where Josh McDaniels kind of put the ball in his hands and let him throw downfield. It was really nice to see that. It was nice to see New England start to trust the rookie and let him throw. And things were going well. Brandon Bolden, he had that really bad drop. That was, I don't want to say it was a drive killer, but obviously the very next play he throws the interception to Micah Hyde, which again I think was a good ball. But I mean, that drive was going well. He had the nice pass to Kendrick Bourne. They had the nice pass. He had a couple nice passes later in the game to like Hunter Henry, and Kendrick Bourne had a really great game. Mac Jones was moving the ball fairly well when he was allowed to. The problem being, in the beginning they had a couple of drives stall, and Buffalo, every time they got the ball, they scored. I mean, even if the offense was firing on all cylinders, let's say Mac Jones had a great game and they were scoring consistently and they didn't have the 2 interceptions, the Bills still scored 47 points. And they took the foot off the gas a little bit at the end, too, because they probably could have put on more. They scored every time they touched the football. You're asking a lot, especially with a rookie quarterback. Like any offense, even Patrick Mahomes, if you need him to score 40-plus points, he's going to have a hard time. To have Mac Jones in this style offense put up 40-plus, it wasn't going to happen. So this defense, to me, absolutely deserves almost 100% of the blame for what happened today. It was just bad. Like I said, the linebackers looked very old, very slow. And listen, I love Dante Hightower, right? You can't, what's the word I'm looking for? What he meant to New England for the past decade, you have to recognize that. He's a Hall of Fame talent. He's been unbelievable. He's been a key piece in the past 3 Super Bowl wins for New England. That cannot go unrecognized. However, today, he looked his age, and he looks washed up. I think Dante Hightower, this is one of the worst games I've ever seen him play. So many missed tackles, so many just bad decision-making on his part. I'm not trying to just fry just Hightower because the defense as a whole played terrible, but watching Hightower, I saw in so many plays him just missing and slipping off Bills players like they had grease all over him. Hightower played so bad. I think they really need to look in the offseason about getting younger at the linebacker position. Hightower and Van Noy and those guys, and Jamie Collins, those guys have been great for New England over the years. But today, that linebacking unit just looked so bad, so slow, and Josh Allen cooked them consistently. Was just a horrible defensive effort. And they did have some injuries and some guys missing in the secondary. Obviously, Jonathan Jones has been out for a while. Jalen Mills, who was unable to play, was on the COVID list. So they had some guys missing in the secondary. Although, again, I think they more beat New England with the ground game more than the pass game. I mean, Josh Allen did throw for 308 yards, but I felt like early in the game, what kept killing New England was Josh Allen's legs and then Devin Singletary. And that, to me, is just telling of how bad our run defense was. Buffalo was notorious all year long for not being able to run the football, and yet they ran it pretty well. Devin Singletary had over 80 yards rushing, 2 rushing touchdowns. It was not the ideal outcome you were looking for from this defense. They put no pressure on the quarterback. It was just all around a very bad game, a very poor effort. And it kind of leaves you, it leaves you with a really bad taste in your mouth going into the offseason, because at the end of the day, this was a solid season. It was a step in the right direction for New England after winning just 7 games last year. It was a bounce back year. It was a step in the right direction. Unfortunately, though, this loss brings up a lot more questions than does answers for the future. And it really does leave me wondering, how are they going to fix some of these things? Because these are serious issues that have to be addressed if New England wants to take that next step into becoming a Super Bowl contender again. So it left me with a lot of questions. It's a really poor loss. The one positive coming out of this game was I thought Mac Jones didn't look terrible. I thought like they actually trust him to throw a little bit more. Obviously, later in the second half, they had to because they were down by 1 million. But I thought this was one of the better games I've seen from him recently. And that's saying something considering he did throw 2 picks. Reading a couple comments here. It's Gear says, may or may not have cried a little tonight. I'm not going to lie, man. The first half I cried. I did shed some tears. I think the second half, because it was such a bad blowout And this game, you just kind of knew it was over by halftime, even though 27-3. If it wasn't for the missed extra point in the first half, it would have been 28-3 at halftime. That would have been interesting. But it felt like a halftime. I mean, it just felt over. When it was 20-0, it felt over. But for me, when I completely knew there was no shot in hell this was coming back, was 4th and 8 at midfield, down 20-0. You know your defense can't stop a nosebleed, and you punt instead of going for it. That's when I knew they were done. And this was a final result. Buffalo, there was no chance they were going to blow this. So yeah, it was tough. The first half, those first couple of drives, the first 2 touchdown drives from Buffalo, definitely had me in my feelings because I came into this game very excited, hoping for a good game, hoping for a tough fought New England game. Didn't get that at all. So yeah, first half especially, I was feeling it. Second half, I kind of just accepted it at that point. It still hurts. But I think the first half, I was definitely I didn't want to check my phone in the first half. It was bad. KJ says the game went about as well as the rest of my day. I know. I hope you're feeling better, KJ. Hope things go well for you, buddy. Gabe says, "Yo, what's up, Gabe?" Gabe also said, "I thought it would have been a lot closer." Man, I thought it would too. I really did think that they put up at least a little bit more of a fight here than what we got. I mean, and that's the thing. They scored 17 points, but 14 of those came in the second half when the final result was already determined. I think it was like 33-3, and then they finally scored a touchdown and made it 33-10. The game was already over by the time they finally put a couple touchdown scoring drives together. So that final scoreboard doesn't even tell the full story. It should have been an even bigger loss for New England. They just got dominated. They really defensively, I think it was the worst defensive showing Belichick has ever had, his team has ever had in New England. And that's saying something. The guy's been here for over 20 years. And he's had a couple of bad games. I think the week 4 game in 2014 against the Chiefs comes to mind when they lost 41-14. That was obviously what led to we're on the Cincinnati game. But that was a pretty bad one. But this one was considering the atmosphere and the scenario being a playoff game and losing that bad. I think personally, as a fan, this is my worst playoff loss I've seen. There were a couple of Ravens losses early in the 2010s that were pretty bad too. But this one for me really stung and really hit deep. So was not the result I was expecting. Evan says, the defense is horrible. Trade J.C. Jackson. You're just trolling, Evan. You're just trolling. I actually don't know what's going to happen with J.C. Jackson, though, because he is a free agent. He's going to want to get paid top corner money. And listen, he's not afraid to pay guys. I mean, he's paid guys in the past. Obviously, Stephon Gilmore got a pretty big deal when they brought him over for Buffalo. And he is a very important part of the defense. So I would not be surprised if they hand him that kind of money, but he could leave, man. He could go get a big contract somewhere else. I'm hoping there's a way we can keep him, because if he does leave, this secondary is in big trouble next season. Evan also said, we should now be known as the New England Frauds. Yeah, that, you know what? For this game, it does kind of fit. It does kind of fit. It was bad. I don't think fraud may be the best word. If before the bye week, the season had ended, right? When New England beat Buffalo that first time, the bye week hits, the season's over, and then they played this game and lost, I think that would be accurate. But I think we kind of, this was a lot of the issues we saw today were issues that were coming up over the last 3-4 weeks. They were just magnified by 100 today. We saw the run defense struggling, the injuries in the secondary, the inability to get pressure on the quarterback. These were things that were happening for the last 3-4 weeks. We saw it the last time we played Buffalo. We saw it last week in Miami. We saw it a couple weeks ago in Indianapolis. So this was something, a lot of the things that went wrong today for New England were things that had been going wrong for the past month. It's just today they were just amped up to 100, and it just looks way worse. And that also is, I think, the result of this being the third time we played Buffalo. So they had a pretty good understanding of our flaws and our weaknesses, and they absolutely attacked them. And we just had no answer at all. Itzgear also said, even if we had Brady, I don't know if we win this game. I absolutely don't think we win this game, even with Brady. I think definitely it would have been closer, because I think the offense would have been able to score a little bit more. And, maybe those 2 interceptions, you don't have those perhaps. Again, I think that first pick, that's just a great play by Micah Hyde. I don't think that's a horrible throw by Big Ben. Big Ben by Mac Jones. I think just a great play by Micah Hyde. But that's just what happened. I mean, I think Tom Brady definitely would have made it closer, but I agree with you. I think they still lose this game even with Brady. I don't think he would be able to overcome how bad this defense was today. Judon with a whole lot of nothing again tonight. Shake my head. I'm repping the Matt Judon jersey. This is the first time I'm wearing it. It just came in yesterday in time for the playoffs, and I was thinking, oh boy, we got it just in time for playoff time. Maybe this brings some positive vibes, and it did not. Listen, I still think Judon was a good signing. We wouldn't have been in the playoffs without him, what he did during the regular season, but he definitely fell apart at the end. I don't really know what happened. Maybe there was an injury we didn't know about. Maybe there's something else going on. But he definitely did not have the impact that he should have, or we thought he was going to have, based on how he played in the regular season. Excuse me. But yeah, Judon was a no-show again, which has been a trend for a little while now. It took me 3 quarters just to mentally get over the first one. Yeah, that first quarter was it was bad. 7-0 to start. Then, like I said, the offense kind of came out firing, and Brandon Bolden drops that ball. I was definitely screaming at my TV screen on that one. And then obviously the interception. Buffalo takes it, makes it 14-0. Offense continues to stall. Yeah, the first quarter, I think it hurt way worse because New England was still in the game. By halfway through the second quarter, they were out of that game entirely. By the way, I don't know if I'm allowed to do this. I am drinking a beer because this game, I need it after this game. Drink responsibly. But yeah, I mean, I think the first quarter it hurt even worse just because of the fact that you were in the game. Like, you still at that point had hope. Like, okay, New England can do this. They can pull this out. It's okay. They're going to come back from this. Halfway through the second quarter, this game was basically over. You almost already gave up hope. What little hope you were clinging to was like a miracle. So the first quarter, I think, was way worse because you still had that hope of, oh my God, we can still do this. So yeah, it was bad. I really liked Bourne tonight. Yeah, I think Kendrick Bourne played a great game. I think he definitely was one of the better signings we had in the offseason. 2 touchdowns tonight. He consistently was the guy who was getting open for Mac. That's kind of been the story all season for Kendrick Bourne. He's the guy that consistently was able to get open for Mac Jones. I think Nelson Aguilar, I don't think was as great of a signing. He had his moments, but I think Kendrick Bourne really was a great addition for this offense, and he really gave Mac another receiver outside of Jacoby Myers that he could rely on. And I'm excited to see what he continues to do as he continues to grow in this offense and they start to trust Mac to throw the ball more. I think that means more looks for Kendrick Bourne. So I thought he was definitely one of the guys who actually did show up tonight. Like I said, only a handful did. I think he was one of those guys who did actually show up for New England tonight. And he played pretty well. That last touchdown catch he had, I know it didn't mean anything in the fourth quarter, but it was a pretty sweet catch. I like Kendrick Bourne a lot. I'm excited to see him come back next season. I think he was money well spent. KJ says, here come the flock of people questioning Bill and Mac for the next 9 months. And yeah, I'm expecting that. I mean, obviously, I feel like, especially with New England, when you lose a game, you're always going to get hit even worse with the haters. Like, people are always going to be acting like the sky is falling down. I think for Mac, he's a rookie quarterback. That's like my answer for everything is like, he's a rookie quarterback. What other rookie quarterback do you see in the playoffs right now? None. He played, I think, like I said, I don't think he played an awful game tonight. I think he did the best he could with what he had, considering that his defense let him out to fry. I mean, he played a solid game. Yeah, he had a couple of picks, and I keep saying it over and over. That first pick, that's just a great play on Micah Hyde because Aguilar had him beat, and it was a really accurate throw. Like, if you look at the replay, how Micah Hyde picked that off, it's just crazy. It just speaks to the athleticism and the player that Micah Hyde is. The second one wasn't great, but I think Mac Jones played pretty well for the most part. I mean, he stayed composed overall, I thought. But like I said, the defense, they couldn't run the ball anymore once they fell down, which definitely hurts their offense because all year long, the run game has been the biggest part of the offense. So I think Mac doesn't deserve the hate. Bill's going to get a lot of heat, I think, because of the defense and the performance of the defense today. But he's still Bill Belichick. I mean, no matter what, I still trust the guy with my life. I'm not going to overreact and call for his head after a loss, even though this loss was really, really bad, and he's got some stuff to figure out. I'm not overly worried, and I'm sure he's going to figure it out in the offseason and make some adjustments. And we'll be back next year and hopefully in better shape. What else we got here? Jimmy G mock trades will be all over the timeline. LOL at KJ Doyle. I mean, there's definitely going to be some people who do it. I hope not. I mean, I think most people should know by now that Mac's the guy, at least for the foreseeable future. I think last year Jimmy G was the year that if they were going to get Jimmy G back, it would have been last offseason. I give it a 0% chance. This team really isn't in a win now position yet. I mean, they're this is like year one of a miniature rebuild. And like I said, they invested some pretty big real estate that first round pick in Max. So I don't think that should even be in the line of possibility. I think Mac's fine. I think Jimmy G is just a more polished Mac Jones. I think if you just keep Mac Jones, he'll eventually reach the level of a Jimmy Garoppolo anyways. So I wouldn't even entertain that thought. Evan, trade the entire defense at this point. They definitely got to make some changes. Like I said, Hightower. I love Hightower, and I'll never forget what he contributed to this team. But I think Hightower absolutely has to go. He looked horrible tonight. He showed his age. He's also probably going to be expensive for his age. I would let some other team sign him at this point. I know he's a veteran leader, and he's flirted with leaving the last couple times he's hit free agency, and he always comes back, which I always appreciated that loyalty from Dante Hightower. But I just, at this point, I think it's just time to move off of him. It's just, he's getting up there in age. And like I said, there's so many times tonight where I just saw him slipping off defenders and missing tackles that Hightower should be making. I don't know, injuries played a role, or at this point in the season, everybody's hurt though. So I don't know how much of that you can use an excuse, but yeah, the linebacking core in particular, it really needs to be looked at because Van Noy, Collins, Hightower, it almost looks like their heyday is over. It's time to get maybe younger at that position, quicker, faster. And the defensive line too. I mean, Judon had a great regular season, but was a no-show. They really could get no pressure. Even Christian Barmore didn't play his best, but Barmore, I'm surprised he even played with the injury that he sustained last week in Miami. So in the secondary, I mean, yeah, I guess this defense really does need a little bit of a revamp. Because the secondary, if J.C. Jackson, especially if he doesn't come back, this secondary is going to be looking very different next year. So trading the whole defense, it's getting close to that point. My issues have nothing to do with this offensive side of the football. Yeah, no. Like I said, the same with me. I think the offense overall played well. I just think that Mac Jones, they couldn't run the offense they wanted to run because they fell in such a hole that they had to just throw the football. And I thought they did pretty well with that, but it took away. They like to use play action. They couldn't really utilize play action. They couldn't lean heavy on Harris and Stevenson because obviously when you're down by 20 plus points, 30 points, you don't really have the time to run the football. So they were forced to kind of throw it a lot more, which in some ways it worked and in other ways it didn't. But I think the offense really wasn't too much to blame. Yeah, could they have played better? Of course, everyone on the team could have played better today. But I don't think the offense deserves as much of the blame. I think like 90% of the blame for this game should be on the defense. Maybe like 10% on the offense because, again, they didn't play their best. But I think the defense was really the reason why we lost tonight. It was bad. How do you feel about Mills going into next season? Yeah, Jalen Mills, he's tough to evaluate. I thought overall he was, considering the price we got on that, I don't think he was an awful addition, but I think he's better as a safety. I don't really think as a defensive back because of the Stephon Gilmore trade and the Jonathan Jones injury. They kind of had to call on him a little bit more to be like that number 2 corner next to J.C. Jackson. I don't think that's really a good role for him. I think he's better as a strong safety or a free safety. I don't really think as a defensive back, as a corner, I don't really think it's the best spot for him, especially as the number 2 corner next to J.C. Jackson. I think he was there as a necessity because of the lack of depth on the team. But I'm fine with him. I mean, coming back next year, I'll be fine. I think if Jalen Mills plays today, the defense would have been better. I know people like to hate on Jalen Mills a lot, but I don't think he had an awful season. I know at times he could be frustrating to watch, but I think he definitely would have helped had he played tonight. Like I said, the secondary, they didn't really burn us too bad. I think it was more the running game, Josh Allen's legs, Devin Singletary. That was really what killed a lot of the momentum. But I definitely think Jalen Mills would have helped. KJ says not having Jalen Mills was underrated, though. He would have helped. Missed 2 games. Davis Mills shredded us up, and Josh Allen shredded us up. Yeah. Like I said, I thought. Yes, Jalen Mills had some. There were some points in the season where Jalen Mills, it was frustrating to watch him at times. But I think overall, I think he got a lot of unnecessary hate. I thought he was good overall. Like I said, considering how much we paid for him, he was always brought in as sort of a depth piece, anyways. And due to injuries and whatnot, he got called to a bigger role, and I thought he was fine in that bigger role. I still do believe that he definitely would have made a difference had he been activated off the COVID list today. Would it have been a big enough difference to change the outcome of the game? No, I don't think so. We still lose and probably lose bad. But at least Jalen Mills would have made it a little bit better, would have maybe kept it a little bit closer. But yeah, I think he was missed. This team, Kyle Duggar had missed. I mean, he was kind of a late decision. He ended up making it into the game. Like I said, Christian Barmore was hurt. They had quite a few injuries coming into today, and a lot of guys, it seems in the 10th hour came in and were able to play. But I mean, you could just see like some guys looked banged up, some guys just looked tired and just like they didn't want to be there. Like I said, the lack of energy and the lack of oomph, the lack of this is the playoffs. Like you're in Buffalo. This is supposed to be the high. This is literally what you play for all year. You play all year to get here, and to get here and to lay that like I don't know what they say in the locker room after the game, but if it doesn't go something like that's what you want to be remembered for. That's what you leave out on the field for your last game of the season. That's embarrassing. Like if I'm a Patriots player going on the bus today, I'm embarrassed. Like that's how I ended the season. Now, hopefully, it's fuel and it's motivation for next year to be better and hopefully come back stronger. But it really is. It's embarrassing. I mean, I've seen it. If you go through Twitter, pretty much all the comments are embarrassing, embarrassing, embarrassing. And absolutely, it was terrible. It was absolutely embarrassing. I think everyone on that defense should be embarrassed for the effort that was put in today. Like I said, this is the playoffs. You play all season for this moment, and that's what you leave on the field. It's bad, and I think a lot of those guys may be looking at different teams next season. Coaching wise, what moves do you think they have to move to make this offseason? I think Jerod Mayo is probably gone. He's probably going to take the Texans job or another. He's been offered a couple head coaching jobs. I've been saying it for a while now, and I know some people may think I'm crazy for saying this. I almost want to get off of Josh McDaniels. Listen, I understand his resume and his legacy in New England. I just really don't. I think for the modern era, it's time to bring in a fresh voice, somebody new to coach Mac Jones. I just thought I think Josh McDaniels many times this season, his play calling, I wrote this in a couple of my blogs, was very uninspiring. He played ultra conservative in times when he shouldn't have been, and he was too aggressive in times that he should have been conservative. I don't know. It almost feels like he's stuck trying to coach for Tom Brady. I just think bringing in a new voice, a new vision for the offense might be better. I think McDaniels, he's been around for so long. I just think it's time for somebody new to come in and maybe revamp the offense and try something different with a young quarterback like Mac Jones. It just a lot of times you just kind of got left wanting more and wanting a little more creativity that just wasn't there. And it just feels like McDaniels is stuck in the Brady years. And I know Mac Jones gets the Brady comparison a lot, but this is not a Tom Brady offense, and he's not Tom Brady. And I just feel like he's stuck with that. And I would like to see him, if he's going to stick around, I'd like to see him maybe do something different offensively, maybe be a little more creative, maybe more modern age. I don't know if you're going to get that from Josh McDaniels. So part of me wants them to move off of him. I know they won't, but I would like to move off of him. And like I said, I think Gerard Mayo probably leaves. So I think Flores, a nice idea would be Brian Flores coming back to the defense. Unfortunately, I think he'll probably get a head coaching offer before he'd come back to New England. So I think Steve Belichick will probably remain the official defensive coordinator moving forward, which I don't hate. I don't think Steve Belichick's awful, but after tonight, that definitely raises some questions. All right, got a couple more questions, and then we'll end the stream. I wouldn't be surprised if Patricia was calling plays tonight. You know what's funny? I was literally just going to say that. It's pretty funny that Patricia comes back and we have a horrible defensive showing in a playoff game, not unsimilar to 2017 in the Super Bowl against Philadelphia. Yeah, Patricia. I don't know how much leeway or pull Patricia has. His role within the defense is interesting. He's not the defensive coordinator, but he's also not like I don't know. His role with the team is weird. But definitely I think it's funny the fact that Patricia comes back and this is what happens, because this is 2017. Like, the defense was okay all year, and then come Super Bowl time, it was just horrendous. And Nick Foles just destroyed us. And Josh Allen destroyed us tonight. So I definitely think maybe bringing in some fresh meat in terms of coordinators to bring in some fresh opinions could help this team. Maybe a younger guy too. Yeah, absolutely. I think especially when it comes to an offensive coordinator. I think bringing in somebody younger, somebody with a fresh opinion, some fresh views on offense. I'm not saying you need to go out and get a college guy, but just somebody that's, Josh McDaniels, he's been running the same kind of offense for the last decade and a half. I mean, it worked during the Brady years. And like I said, again, it's similar to Dante Hightower, where just because I want him gone now doesn't mean I don't appreciate what he did in the past for New England, because you don't get the Patriots dynasty without McDaniels. He played a huge role at both times he was here, before he left for Denver and then coming back from Denver. He's very important to the Patriots dynasty, but all things have to come to an end at some point. And I think it's time for New England to move off McDaniels. I'm almost happy that, because there were rumors that he was going to succeed Belichick. I'm happy that he probably won't be the guy to succeed him, because I think McDaniels is a little bit overrated as a coach. And I know that might be blasphemous as a Patriots fan to say that, but I do think that times that McDaniels he leaves me going this guy is the one who everyone wants as a head coach, because watching him play call sometimes, I'm like, this guy, sometimes I think he's a genius, and other times I'm like, he's our offensive coordinator. Why? Why is he still here? So yeah, just a disappointing, I think, to wrap it up, a very disappointing end to what was overall, I think, a solid season. I thought we were trending in the right direction. Joe Judge is the future Pats head coach. Oh my God. Trust the process. Really? Listen, the best thing the Giants ever could have done was get rid of Joe Judge. And let me defend him for a second. I don't think Joe Judge is a horrible, horrible coach. I'm not saying he's a good coach. I don't think he's the worst coach this game has to offer. Excuse me. But I mean, that Giants locker room was a mess. There was no way you could confidently bring him back and expect things to change. You had to dump him. So really, Joe Judge, future Pats head coach. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up back in New England in some role, because that's kind of what happens. You get bounced. You get bounced from your other, like Patricia, McDaniels. I mean, it's happened before. I'm surprised Bill O'Brien never came back, to be honest. Special teams could have used him this year. Yeah. That's why I said, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised because unlike Brian Flores, he's not getting head coaching offers from anywhere after what happened in New York. So who knows? I mean, maybe Belichick gives him a call and he decides to come back. I mean, I'd take him back. Like you said, special teams definitely could have used it this year. That first kickoff return from Gunner, there's so many times in the NFL where I'm like, just take the touchback. And I know that's maybe that's a dumb take, but that first kickoff return, in the first drive of the game, I think where they get down to the 12 or 13 yard line. like you caught it in the end zone. It's a free start at the 25-yard line. Just take the touchback sometimes. I just, it aggravates me. That was the first play from the Patriots special teams and offense. And I'm like, that's how we're going to start this? Like, you could have easily got to the 25, and instead we're starting back at the 12. All right, Gunner. But yeah, I wouldn't be mad if Joe Judge comes back. But yeah, I think to wrap it up, it just, like I said, it just, overall, I thought this was a solid year. It was a step in the right direction. Coming off of the 7-win year last year, the Cam Newton season, I think it was definitely, we went in the right direction. But overall, um, it's just a sad way to end what was a promising season. Like I mean, either way, I'm going to be crushed that they lost this game, because as a fan, you want to see them go on another run. You want to see them go to the Super Bowl. Even I was hyping that up a few weeks ago, and obviously I kind of matured my opinion on that as I watched some of these losses pile up. But I would have liked to see them obviously advance. But it's not just the fact they lost, because a loss happens, and coming into this game, I think a lot of people kind of expected that. But it wasn't just the loss. It was the fact that you just absolutely destroyed. If they had lost like the Raiders did earlier today, what was the final score of that game? Like 26-19? I could have slept at night being like, all right, it sucks. We lost. The season's over. But at least we played a hard-fought game. We kind of had it close. We were in it to the end. Whatever. It's positive momentum going into next season. With this loss, it's really just like, where do we go from here now? Like, this is just ultimate vibe killer. It raises so many questions going into the offseason. New England does have a little bit of cap space. I think they have like between 30 and 35 million. But of course, if they're going to keep JC Jackson around, a lot of that money is going to be allocated to that. So it should be interesting. I'm sure it's New England. I mean, Belichick's not going to stay quiet. He's obviously going to look to get better in the offseason. It'll be interesting to see how he does that. Between the draft and free agency and trades, I will definitely be interested to see what's next for New England, but definitely leaves a sour taste in your mouth. And I'm going to be feeling this loss for a couple of days, probably maybe weeks for sure. I've already been tormented. I'm afraid to actually check my phone, because before I got on here, oh yeah, the messages are piling up. I've been tormented by all my Patriot hater friends who are rubbing it in right now that we got absolutely curb stomped in this game. But guys, thank you so much for watching my live stream. If you want to check out more of my content, subscribe to Guy Boston Sports YouTube channel, The Freak Show. I do about 2 episodes a week. If you want to go check out my my 2022 NFL playoff special, that episode is currently on GuyBostonSports.com, where I gave all my predictions, including a Patriots win, which in hindsight was a terrible pick. All my picks and predictions for the playoffs are there, so go check that out if you'd like. Like I said, subscribe to the channel. You can follow me on Twitter at @Kilimos, or you can follow the @GuyBostonSports Twitter account as well. Guys, thank you so much for watching. KJ, thank you for letting me fill in today. I had a lot of fun, and I will see you guys in the near future. Hopefully Pats come back next year, because I can't take many more losses like this.